Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Barkeep, bringing you podcast 104 here at the Tavern, presented by Hirotaku.com. You know, one of the reoccurring things that we have in virtually every Power Rangers season is the presence of a mentor. You know, that person that provides the exposition as to what's going on, provides the Rangers with their powers, gives them sage advice throughout the season, and occasionally bestows new Zords and new weapons upon them. And, you know, if you go ahead and poll people on who they think great mentors are, you know, you'll get answers like RJ, Sensei Wanatabe, you know, just a few here and there that will go ahead and pop up. But I think 99% of the time, universally, you're going to hear the greatest mentor in all of Power Rangers is Zordon. And sometimes it's hard to argue with that. I mean, Zordon got the original Power team together, made Tommy the White Ranger, allowed him to stay on as the Green Ranger, helped develop the Thunder Zords for the Rangers, develop the Zeo arsenal, the Turbo arsenal, create the Robot Rangers. His sacrifice ultimately saved the universe from invasion by Dark Spectre. And of course, his legacy continues with all the mechs being named after him as Zords. His influence on Tommy to become a mentor for the Dino Thunder team. And of course, his implementation of Gosei to the Mega Rangers, for what that's worth. But the thing is that I think everybody can pretty much agree that Zordon is a key figure, very influential, very important, very powerful within the Power Rangers universe. But is he the greatest mentor? The thing is, in recent years, I've been questioning, is Zordon really all he's cracked up to be? Is he this great and wise and powerful sage that we've all come to love and adore? I mean, certainly throughout the series, as I've just mentioned all those facts, he's done a lot of great things for the Power Rangers. And even the recognition of his name has done some great things for the Power Rangers. Take the movie where the Rangers travel to Phaedos and they encounter Dulcia, who's about to kill them all. But as soon as Aisha mentions, you know, Zordon is dying, that they're working with Zordon, she completely changes her tune and decides to go ahead and help them. You know, that no matter where the Rangers go in the universe, there is somebody there who's going to go ahead and help them because they know Zordon, and Zordon is, you know, is so important to galactic events, it seems, that you could not write the history of the Power Rangers universe without Zordon there, it seems. But the thing is that I just don't think Zordon is all that he's cracked up to be, that when you actually evaluate a lot of the things that he has done, a lot of the things that he has said, you really kind of look at like, Zordon's just not that good. And let me put it in this context for you guys. So I love Mortal Kombat. I love the franchise. It's a great game series and all that. And for the most part, there are about two ways to go ahead and play that game. You're either that person who knows all the combos, all the special moves, can do all the fatalities and secret moves and all that kind of stuff. There are people that are like that play the game, and they always win an online competition and, you know, competitions for money and all that kind of stuff. They're just amazing. But then there are those people who get the controller and all they do is press the B button or the X button or whatever, and they just keep punching, and somehow they win the tournament. They win the match. They win the game. And the thing is, I look at Zordon as that person who's always pressing the B button. Because Zordon, throughout his history, has demonstrated that he has technology, he has magic, he has great people around him, but he's not utilizing them to their full potential. And if we're using the Mortal Kombat reference, consider he's playing as Scorpion. Yeah, he probably knows how to do the chain and all that, but can he do the flames come up from the ground, the teleport punch, or even the fatality? It's where Zordon has this at his disposal, only uses a small fraction of its potential, and thus his potential, and somehow wins almost every single time. And that's where I look at Zordon as being essentially a flawed character, is that he's not doing things within a reasonable way that's within his power. So what I want to go ahead and talk about today is I have a short list of several instances where Zordon is not using things to his full potential, not realizing things quick enough, or not even fully thinking things out that lead to certain implications and problems throughout the Power Rangers universe. And I think it's important to highlight a few of these. I'm sure there may be more examples, but these are the ones I kind of compiled within a short time. Because when we look at all this, we're going to see that Zordon could have done so much more and prevented so many tragedies and problems, but for whatever reason, he just didn't, and I wonder if it's chalked up to some level of incompetence or immaturity or something. And I'll let you guys decide for yourselves, but let's go ahead and kind of begin with the list, and let's see what we got here. I think where we need to start is his recruitment of the original Power Teens from Day of the Dumpster. Because Zordon tells Alpha in the first episode that he wants, 5 overbearing, over-emotional humans, which translates to teenagers. Or if you believe the opening, teenagers with attitude. Okay, so first of all, he's purposefully getting people who are less than 20 years old to draft into this war of his. And if we believe the timeline Power Rangers, freshmen in high school, again, that's what the timeline indicates, who all happen to be from the same country, the same state, the same city, and are in the same location when he brings them all together. And he brings somebody who knows martial arts, somebody who is a computer genius for his age, a gymnast Valley Girl cheerleader, a woman who is practicing martial arts and kung fu and is intelligent in her own right, and a guy who invented hip-hop Aikido. Now, I'm not saying that the characters themselves are bad, but based on that list, based on their location, based on their age, do you think, objectively, that these people are the best solution to save the world from an alien invasion? I mean, I know Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith is kind of stretching it, but really, these 5 guys, this was the best that you can come up with. Keep in mind, Rita has been in prison for 10,000 years. And that means Zordon has had 10,000 years to prepare for her return. And we'll get into her return here in a second. But he's had 10,000 years, and after 10,000 years of watching, evaluating, and understanding human culture, he believes that 5 teenagers from Southern California are the best soldiers to fight in this conflict. I mean, consider this about Kimberly, and this is not to be bashing Kimberly or anything. Some people think that I like doing that, but consider Kimberly herself. Again, Valley Girl, gymnastic cheerleader. First of all, what part of that indicates to you that she would be good in alien invasion? And this isn't Heroes or anything. This is Power Rangers. And I don't think that any of those qualify Kimberly for being a superhero. But also consider 2 things about the Pink Ranger status. The Pink Ranger not only has the power bow and arrow, but also the pterodactyl dinosaur. So isn't it incumbent on Zordon to pick a person who is either good at archery and or can pilot a plane? Because at no point do we actually see Kimberly within the series unmorphed practicing archery or any related skill. Every time we see Kimberly, she's always doing some sort of gymnastics, she's shopping, she's making floats, she's doing all this other stuff, but we never actually see her practice archery. So, does Zordon think that somebody who's never handled a bow and arrow can actually use a bow and arrow? I mean, because that shot she made with the Terror Toad, I mean, I'd like to see Hawkeye make a shot like that, because I don't know. It just doesn't make sense that she can do that. And we also find that when Kimberly is flying with Bulk, Skull, and her Uncle Steve, I believe it is, and of course all 3 of them get knocked out, Alpha has to talk to her over the communicator on how to fly and land the airplane that she is in. Alpha 5 is telling somebody who regularly pilots the pterodactyl dinosaur on a regular basis technology which is centuries above anything that Earth has at that time, he has to tell this person how to fly a standard aircraft. Now, I would think that if Kimberly knows how to pilot the pterodactyl dinosaur, that she'd be inclined to fly a plane. Not to mention, did Zordon not know she couldn't do this? Because I would think after this incident, he would kind of realize, geez, I kind of backed the wrong horse there, getting somebody who can't fly a simple plane to fly a Dinozord. It just doesn't make any particular sense to me. And look at his choices later in the series. I mean, they bring Tommy into the fold, but that's only because Rita chose Tommy, and he brought him back because he knew the team and he was skilled. He did prove himself. But you got Rocky, Am, and Aisha. The only reason those three were even picked by Zordon was because, well, you guys know the identity of the teens and you know martial arts, therefore you are qualified. Doesn't make much sense. And of course, when the Turbo Teens come about, he is fully approving of TJ, Cassie, Carlos, and Ashley, who we eventually find do prove themselves. But again, based on what we know at the time of them, very poor and unusual choices. And let's not get into the debate of why Justin was even chosen as a Power Ranger. What I'm getting at here is that Zordon has made very, very, very questionable choices on who he thinks should be a Power Ranger. If Zordon was going to go ahead and pick Power Rangers logically and objectively, let's look at this here. If he's going to recruit somebody to be a Pink Ranger, that person should be well aware of how to fly planes and should be an archer in some capacity or some balance of them. So if you know, Hal Jordan makes a better Pink Ranger than Kimberly from that perspective. So why wasn't a fighter pilot chosen to be the Pink Ranger? I mean, that's a legitimate question, is it not? And then take a look at, Zach. Zach, of course, is the Black Ranger. Black Ranger has to go ahead and have a power axe, which transforms into a big old gun. How much you want to bet Zach has never touched a gun prior to being a Power Ranger? And you're going to go ahead and give somebody something that's more powerful than a gun, this big old monster cannon, the BFG or whatever you want to call it, and expect him to be a good shot, to make good decisions on where to aim and stuff like that. Again, this is nothing against the Rangers themselves. It's only against Zordon's decision that he purposely recruited people who don't know what they're doing, who don't have any skills that would be necessary to fight in this war. It's basically like, the Seattle Seahawks drafting a middle school place kicker to go play in the NFL. Someone who is below age and unskilled at their profession. I mean, you wouldn't expect that to happen, so why did Zordon even do this in the first place? Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Second, and I know this is really a criticism of a lot of different superhero teams, but Zordon seems to be reactive to all of Rita and Zed's plots. So look at, in this context, let's take a look at the Zeo Crystal, something that Master Vile was coming to go ahead and look for. Zordon basically says, oh yeah, the Zeo Crystal is under Zed's palace. This is something that he knew. That Zordon knew that Zeo Crystal was located under Rita and Zed's palace, and yet he just let set there, assuming that, oh, they'll never be able to go ahead and get it and never be able to go ahead and use it. And also look at things like the power eggs, something that was set adrift by the Morphing Masters centuries ago and has never been found. Or millennia ago, I believe is what it was. And Zordon never went looking for those. What happens in a lot of Power Ranger episodes is that Rita has discovered the location to the secret so-and-so, or the powerful what's-it, or the MacGuffin of the week, if you will. That she will find it first, and it becomes a race for the Rangers to get it first, or to disable it after Rita has already obtained it. Where Zordon, he always knows what this is. He knows about things like the location of the singing squash that they'll need, or again, the power eggs, the Zeo Crystal, the power sword, which is used to transfer, or in some cases, copy powers, which he never utilized, never got a hold of for whatever reason. So I know Zordon is immobilized in that tube, but we see in the series that he had several alpha assistants, and at some point learns the ability to create robots and Zords to do his bidding, and of course can teleport people at will. So why did Zordon never proactively seek any of these mystical MacGuffins for his benefit? Why didn't he send the Power Rangers to the Moon Palace to retrieve the Zeo Crystal, since only those who are pure good can obtain it? And of course Zordon's like, oh, well, the Rangers are good, therefore they should be able to get the Zeo Crystal and keep it out of the hands of Rita. Or why didn't he try to find the secret location of the Shogun Zords? You know, why was that something that Finster had to go ahead and do? And let's be honest, Zordon has much more resources and technology to call upon than Finster, Rita, whoever, and all that. Why was that something that we always had to wait for Rita and her cronies to discover it, but Zordon never actively went out looking for it? It's just one of those things, like when they had to do the power transfer. Why did he wait till then to go get the sword? Why couldn't he just say, let's go get it, you know, now or 20 years ago, just in case something were to happen? That's the kind of thing that bothers me. He doesn't really have that foresight to go looking for certain things that might become necessary down the line, particularly if he thinks that Rita may be aware of their existence as well. And keep in mind, he had 10,000 years from the time that Rita was imprisoned up until now to actually do things, but he never got around to it. So, also consider that Zordon does not actually create any Power Ranger powers at the beginning. That he has to learn to create Power Rangers later in the series. And, you know, he's created Zeo and helped create Turbo. But the one he was directly responsible for with Alpha was creating the White Ranger. So when the Green Ranger is gone and they realize, hey, we need more powers, you know, we need more Rangers, he creates one Ranger. He creates one additional Ranger to help the Power Rangers fight. Well, we're never given any indication that Zordon is low on resources, or this is a very delicate task that takes days, weeks, years to go ahead and complete. None of that is ever stated. So basically Zordon says, I'm going to create a new Ranger, give it to your friend, and not create any more. I mean, with this power, if Zordon knows how to create Power Rangers and has access to the morphing grid, do you not think that he should be creating as many Power Rangers as he can? Not to mention, the White Ranger's introduction is shortly before or shortly after, I forget where it fits in timeline, of Serpentera, a Zord that can destroy planets. So don't you think it's incumbent upon him to create more Rangers to battle this kind of threat? At no point did Rita ever show the ability to destroy an entire planet. She could call upon Satan, but she can't destroy an entire planet. But with this knowledge, don't you think Zordon should have said, hey, let's make more Rangers because, you know what, a planet buster is pretty bad. You know, that just something to go ahead and think about. That he didn't have the foresight to create more Power Rangers, particularly not long after the White Ranger's created. He has 3 Rangers that leave, and he has to have a sword to transfer or copy the powers of those Rangers, where he could have just easily said, let's bring 7 more people in and I'll create new powers for them. That's something that he should have done. Not to mention, let's talk about the Zords. There is debate on whether he actually did create the Zords or not. We know that the powers themselves were not created by Zordon, and the Ninja Zords were not created by Zordon. But it's reasonable to believe that the Dino Zords and the Thunder Zords were direct creations of Zordon, at very least the Tiger Zord. So if Zordon has the ability to create these Zords, and again, we have no indication that it takes them a long time to build or a power source that's not always available, and then we find that later in Zeo, they're making tons of Zords with Billy's assistance, why does he only have 7 Dino Zords and 7 Thunder Zords? Why doesn't he create an entire armada? Why would he have like 100 Zords? There's no reason for it. They never give a reason why he can't do that. Yes, you can say each Ranger's matched with a Zord, but again, we just brought up, he can create Rangers, so if he can make the Purple Ranger, let's come up with a new Zord for them. If we can make the Orange Ranger, let's come up with a new Zord for them. Zordon seems to display the ability, at least in Season 2, to create more Rangers and more Zords, and yet is very limited in that ability. Even when it comes to Zeo, he gives them the Zeo Megazord, the Red Battle Zord, the Warrior Wheel as a gift, Pyramidus was given with the Gold Ranger powers, and the Super Zeo Zords were actually given as a gift from Trey as well. So of all the Zords they're actually using in that season, only 2 Megazords were actually built by Zordon and Billy. Why weren't there more Zords being made? And even when we get to Turbo, they create the Turbo Megazord. That's the only Megazord they actually create. They have to wait and get other Zords from the Blue Centurion and from the Phantom Ranger. Again, Zordon shows the ability to create Zords. Why isn't he making more Zords? And the point I'm making with these two here, with the creation of Rangers and Zords, is that you cannot rely on the fate of the world on 5 people when you have the ability to recruit and hire more and power them. Now, we get in later seasons where, yeah, you can't make that many Power Rangers. You know, look at Jungle Fury, Lost Galaxy, there's only 5 Quasar Sabers, thus there are only 5 Rangers, you know. We get examples of that, but examples of Zordon, and in later examples of, say, Time Force, Lightspeed Rescue, Operation Overdrive, when multiple Rangers can be created, it's never listed as limited, problematic, or anything like that to give us a logical reason why we have such a limited number, and Zordon started that trend. Let's also talk about his involvement in galactic politics, which I know sounds odd, but consider this. Zordon, throughout the first, 3 or 4 seasons of Power Rangers, he's only concerned with what's going on Earth, with Rita's invasion, Zed and Master Vile and so forth in the Machine Empire. He's only responding to threats that happen to Earth. Now, you can argue that he is in charge of Earth, that that's what he's there to protect, that his time warp status makes it prevents him from actually going out and doing other things. But once you can create Power Rangers, don't you think that you should be able to use those Rangers to do other things out there? I mean, here's the prime example that comes to mind here. Look at King Lexian in Edenoi with the Masked Rider. It's stated in that series that Count Dreg had conquered the entire planet, enslaved the people, and only resistance was the Masked Rider and his forces. Now, King Lexian is said to be a good friend of Zordon, so much of a good friend that he gave him Alpha 5, that he created life in the form of a little robot that goes, ay, 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 as a gift to Zordon. And what does Zordon do for him? Nothing. The only time that King Lexian and Edenoi is brought into the series is when Alpha is upset that he hasn't heard from King Lexian in some time, and sends the Rangers to investigate on what is going on. If Zordon is that good of a friend with King Lexian, then he should have sent the Power Rangers decades ago to help fight Count Dreg. Or excuse me, not Count Dreg. Yeah, it's Count... Is it Count Dreg? Dragon, yeah. Okay. They should have sent them there. Because, again, from what we get in the timeline, it seems that his invasion forces have been Edenoi for years and years prior to Rita's release. So if Zordon was aware of this, and Rita wasn't around, again, she hasn't been around for 10,000 years, wouldn't it make sense for him to send the power coins to Edenoi to have them have a team of Power Rangers, or send people from Earth to go ahead and help them? No, Zordon does not help King Lexian in anything. And look at the other people he doesn't help. Zordon never helped the people of Aquitar, even though they have the Hydro Hog that's attacking them, and he's friends with the Alien Rangers. Never sends Power Rangers or any help with the Battle of KO-35, even though at the time the Zeo Rangers were around and he could have easily spared somebody. And of course, you got characters like Trey of Triforia who's traveling the galaxy helping people. Why is Zordon so fixated on one planet? He has the ability, again, going back to previous points, to create Rangers and Zords and teleport across the universe, and yet does not utilize that ability to save everybody else. I mean, why is his concern only Earth up until Power Rangers in space? And then once we get the Power Rangers in space, it's everybody who's of concern to him, the entire universe. But why is he only concerned with Earth at the beginning? That makes no sense to me. Oh, and another point that I did forget to bring up here. The Mega Voyager. Does anybody realize that Alpha 6 says that Zordon created the Mega Voyager for an emergency situation? And Linkara brought this up pretty well. Like when the Thunder Zords were destroyed, or when they lost their ninja powers, or when they were fighting Divatox. How come the Mega Voyager was such a secret? This is an example of where Zordon did create Zords, but never used them. Why? Why does he keep this a secret from people? Why does he create things and doesn't let anybody know and say, hey, Billy, just in case something happens, remember to go to Jupiter's moon to get the Mega Voyager. I'm sure that would be very helpful. And depending on how long he's had these, consider for a second. If he had these Zords in 94, if the Mega Voyager was already built at that point, doesn't that make him incredibly stupid, foolish, and dangerously irresponsible not to summon the Mega Voyager to help the Rangers fight Rito? Why is his first thought, let's send you guys to a desert to, gain, ninja Zords from a temple that may or may not exist? Why is that his first instinct? And, our friends have been captured by a space pirate, so why don't we create cars to go save her instead of going to the moon of Jupiter and getting these space vehicles that can fly and work in 3 dimensions? That's something that again is never brought up. Let's also bring up the destruction of the Thunder Zords, because according to Alpha, it would take centuries to repair the power core in this power center, and they could not repair the Zords because the Zords' power are tied into the command center. Now, unless I'm missing something regarding, engineering and power distribution, whatever, isn't it incredibly dangerous to tie in your only Zord's powers into your own command center power? Why don't they have a separate power source? Why does it take centuries to rebuild these? And when you did get power restored in Ninja Storm, or excuse me, the 3rd season with the Ninja Zords, or in Zeo, or in Turbo when everything was functioning, why didn't you rebuild the Thunder Zords? You had the technology. Billy obviously says we recycled Zords to make the Zeo Zords. I'm like, wait a second. Are you telling me you took the Thunder Zords and rebuilt them as the Zeo Zords? Well, why couldn't you just rebuild them as Thunder Zords, which are just as powerful, if not more powerful? The only thing that makes the Zeo Zords more powerful is their power source. And I'm sure you could have put the Zeo Crystal within the Red Dragon Thunder Zord and made it just as powerful, if not more powerful. Here's another thought. So, since Zordon doesn't actually go out and help anybody in the universe, he never really considers bringing anybody here to help us. Yeah, when the Rangers are turned into children for the 2nd time, he then decides, maybe now would be a good time to call the Alien Rangers. Because consider, at this time, if we believe the timeline, look at everything objectively, the Alien Rangers exist, some form of the Space Ranger powers do exist, the Samurai Rangers definitely exist and have existed for centuries, and the Mega Force powers and Super Mega Force powers are stored somewhere. Somewhere, we don't know. Zordon has all these other teams and other powers in which to call upon, but it's not until the Rangers are turned children for the 2nd time again that he decides to call one team of Rangers from the planet Aquitar. Why one team? This is the greatest threat that you have faced ever up to that point, and you call one team of Rangers? And if you're friends with Andros and KO-35, why not contact KO-35? Also, what about the Masked Rider? You don't think you can call him and say, hey, return the favor, we need your help? They never do that. I'm sure he is aware of the existence of the Samurai Rangers, because Zordon seems to be omnipresent and aware of every Ranger team, and I'm sure the Samurai Ranger is not a well-kept secret, at least what we get in Power Rangers Samurai. And it seems that sometime prior to Turbo, he had to have created Gosei and the Mega Force powers and the Super Mega Force powers. And yet, he doesn't use those, even though they already exist. So Zordon doesn't ever call for help, and then when he does, he calls one small team to help. And again, they were successful, don't get me wrong, but I just don't get it. He doesn't really call for help when he needs it, and doesn't actually send help when everybody needs it. He is so self-centered or focused on this one planet that he doesn't look at the universe around him. That's one of the flaws I have. And even like, why doesn't he call like other people who are not Power Rangers, like the Wind Ninja, the Thunder Ninja, the Pa Shui Academy? Even though they're not Power Rangers, you'd think they could use some ninjas and kung fu masters. I mean, it only seems fair to me. Second to last point I want to make. The creation of Gosei. I suspect that Zordon doesn't know how to program computers that well. Consider that Alpha 5 was given to him as a gift, and he has not actually created any other AI outside of the Robot Rangers, which again was created by him and Alpha on Eldar, obviously with other help. And again, I've gotten to the issues with Robot Rangers. I don't think I need to repeat that here. But he created Gosei, who doesn't help the Rangers, gives them random stuff at any given time and say that you've unlocked this power or whatever. Doesn't explain anything. And just, Gosei has baffling logic to everything that he does. Because it seems Gosei has the ability to bestow upon the Rangers all the weapons and gear that they have from Mega Mission on. That from the very first episode of the Mega Force Rangers, Gosei has all these powers at his disposal, but somehow chooses to present these gifts to them later on down the line. Why is that? How come not give it to them all at once? Because they're not earning it. You're just giving it to them at random. So why didn't you just give them all at the beginning? Why didn't you give the Super Mega Force powers to begin with? Because it seems that the Super Mega Force powers are more powerful. So why didn't you give them the Super Mega Force powers to begin with? Why'd you start with the Mega Force powers? It seems that when Zordon created Gosei, and Gosei seems to be an artificial intelligence. I don't think he's anything particularly mystical, but I think he's an artificial intelligence that Zordon did not program him properly. That he did something wrong that caused Gosei to be this way. For Gosei to be the most ineffectual leader we have ever seen in Power Rangers. And that's not hyperbole. That's, I mean, name somebody who is more incompetent, more inept than Gosei. I certainly can't think of anyone. So when it comes to Zordon with creating artificial life himself without any assistance, he seemed to fumble the ball on that one, which frankly has caused a lot of death and destruction in Megaforce, because it seems to me that if Gosei had provided the Rangers with the Sky Ship and the Megaforce powers and everything else to begin with, they wouldn't be in this predicament, because they would have a full arsenal and you could easily defeat villains without having to upgrade when the situation became dire. And of course, Gosei, I think, and Megaforce is another discussion for another time, but since he was created by Zordon, this is a problem of Zordon's, and continues to highlight the problems. I have one other point that I want to go ahead and make. This is my last point, and I think this is really the biggest flaw with Zordon. So, in the very first episode of Day of the Dumpster, before he picks the teens, Rita is freed from her prison. Now, in Zoo Ranger, we know that the planetoid that drifts between Earth and the Moon is called Nemesis. That it goes around space and so forth, and that's when the astronauts go there, they find it and release her. In Zoo Ranger, they at least have the excuse that the leader of the Zoo Ranger, whose name is escaping me, doesn't have technology. That all he has is magic and has been on Earth for millions of years and just doesn't have the technological knowledge to detect when Winch Pandora is released. And he's only aware of it through sensing abilities, again, from what I understand. Zordon has no excuse. If we are to believe that Rita's planetoid is Nemesis and it's the same origin, because I'm going to tell you right now, that is not the moon that they are in the first episode. That is a completely different planet. Look at the establishing shot. We see the moon and we see this planetoid. So for anybody who believes that's the moon, forget it. This is Rita's planetoid. So Rita's planetoid has come into the solar system's orbit, all right? And in that orbit is discovered by, astronauts who decide to go up there. Now, consider a few things right here. first of all, this is Earth technology circa 1993 with space travel. Even though the shuttle looks more advanced than most of the things that we typically see in that era, it would still have to take them days, maybe weeks, to even get to the planetoid. But also consider that it's a planetoid, and unless it's moving at infinite speed, at infinite velocity, or light speed, which is impossible for a planet, it would have taken millions and millions of years for Rita's planetoid to get in Earth orbit. That drifting by would take an enormous amount of time to get there. And when you think about it, for it to be in the position it was in 1993, that means that that planetoid has been there all of Earth history. That from the moment humans have been able to look up to the sky with the speed that it's traveling, humans would have known of its existence millions and millions of years prior. Okay, humans were not around millions and millions of years prior, but the dinosaurs would have been able to see it, is my point. That being said, Zordon imprisoned her on something 10,000 years ago, which would have been, I would say, probably already in Earth's solar system, in a exposed and non-covered area with no sign, no warning, not even a beacon in space saying stay away from this, to alert people that Rita is there. And then he's on Earth for 10,000 years, and again, he should know it's already there. He should know before humans that it's there. That, hey, look, there's this planetoid that's been there all of Earth's history. Let's go explore it. But Zordon, at some point, should have contacted somebody and say, I'm Zordon of Eltar. I'm an interdimensional being. There is an evil witch entrapped up there. Believe me, I'm a giant floating head. And if he would have come out and said that, with the millions of years of foreknowledge, or thousands of years of foreknowledge, he would have been able to prevent Rita's escape, Zed coming to Earth in the first place, and Master Vile coming to Earth, to where all they would really have to worry about is the Machine Empire, and would have had a few more years to prepare for such an occasion. The point I'm getting at is that Zordon knew that Rita was there, that Rita was coming, and he must have been monitoring the humans when they sent a spacecraft to that planetoid. Don't you think Zordon has a 24-hour cycle where he's got a camera on that planetoid to know that Rita is coming? And he should know that if humans go up there? It is his inaction in this particular situation that sent Earth into 3 years of chaos, and who knows what else could have been caused by Rita's escape. It's all Zordon's fault. I'm going to put it plain and simple. It is Zordon's fault that Rita escaped. Why? Because he did not do enough to actually keep her imprisoned, to hide her existence, or to warn other people. And what is his reaction when Rita has escaped? Let's get 5 teenagers to stop her. I like Zordon. I really do. I don't think I've met anybody who's ever hated Zordon. But when you just rack up these points that I've made and really examine it, Zordon, he's not dumb, he's not inept, he just seems to be incompetent. He has this ability to do all these amazing and wondrous, important things, and yet he doesn't. Why? I just can't wrap my head around it, and I've been trying to come up with a reason to it. Why is it that he has the ability to create Zords and Rangers, knows the location to just about every ancient artifact, has allies throughout the universe, has hidden bases, he has all these things put together, and yet he doesn't utilize them properly, and because of that, we've led to Rita's escape and, destruction of the Thunder Zords and all this other kind of stuff that could have been prevented if he just uses a little bit of common sense. That's all I'm saying. So I think I've ranted enough on Zordon here, and I'm very curious to what you guys think. Do you guys think Zordon is an incompetent character? Could he have done more to prevent Rita's escape, the destruction of Zords, the creation of more Zords and Rangers? Could he have helped other people? Or he could have asked for help more often? Again, for the greatest sage in Power Rangers history, he just seems a very flawed character, and I'm curious to what everybody else thinks. But those are my thoughts on Zordon. I want to thank you guys for listening. Come here next time. We'll have another interesting topic to go ahead and discuss. Otherwise, have yourselves a good day. And the tavern is now closed.